Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is great to have you here. Thank you. And the live Q&A for the month is ready. And I have some great questions for you today. We have actually quite a lot to get through. So if you're busy today, come back to this replay a little bit later. There's a lot of information in this. It's going to be quite in depth. We're going to go through the Foxtrot, some steps in the Samba. We're going to look at some some tips on like floor pressure, developing strength at an older age, competing, right? If you haven't done a comp in a long time, and then like the mindset side of things, like people's response to, hello, Tara, the people's response to failure, right? So a nice little parable at the end that I think will sum it up really nicely for us all. Okay, so woo, it has been a month. What a year. How's your year turning out, by the way? How's everything coming together for you? Are you happier with how you're dancing now than you were a year ago? All right. You should have some sort of progress happening in your dancing and your movement. This is the goal that I would set for you and an intention for you to go forward, to always try to get a little bit better every single time you dance. And it can be possible, but there's something that's very overlooked in dancing quite often. However, if you've been a student with me for a long time here, which I know some of you have, you know that I'll always come back to one of the main things, and that is footwork, right? And feet. Now, it's more than just using your the correct part of your foot, like a heel, a toe, a ball, inside edge of whole foot. All those things are fine and good. There's actually a lot more depth to that. So I want you to think of it like this. Your feet are like the pressure on a car tire. So you've got four wheels, right? We have two. And essentially, if the pressure's off on one of them, if one tire is half inflated and the other is like overinflated, the car is going to drive really badly. It's going to have terrible balance and it's going to be pulling you everywhere, right? So think of your feet maintaining equilibrium. And as an analogy, you're going to use that going forward to try to create better control through your footwork, of course, and then using that to guide the musicality and the expression of your dancing, okay? Now that's a good pre-frame for the Foxtrot we're about to get into and how to work on that a little bit together. And then I've got a little bit of interesting tips and ideas here that I'll read to you that I think will help tremendously all of us get a little better. All right, so firstly though, after the intro, I want to say thank you for being here with me this year. The last 2 years has been so intense for me on a personal level. I've been going through some big changes. And so, you know, I'm coming into a new season in my life, which is fantastic. So I'm really grateful for your being here, for your support. I know it's hard, right? Staying a member of anything online is just so difficult, right? So I do get that because, you know, life changes, people go through ups and downs, and you know, people come in and out of your life, people pass away, unfortunately. You know, these are just the cycles, man. And so there are so many things pulling your attention away. And the thing that I've always stuck with, and I'm a bit of a weirdo like this, but it's important to have a very long-term vision in mind, right? A long-term, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so when it comes to the trials and tribulations of, say, doing competition, medals, or continuing to improve your dancing, it doesn't happen overnight. Now, you know this, it's not rocket science, but it's very easy to get distracted and pulled away when you don't feel you're getting the results that you want in your dancing, okay? Even if it's just a social thing, it can be frustrating being stuck at the same level, so to speak. So you want to feel incremental progress, okay? That's very important. It's not these giant leaps that occur once in a blue moon. You want to feel that you are getting some incremental progress. And there are things that can preclude you from that, such as sometimes it's the person you're dancing with. People don't like hearing that, but it's true sometimes. But I would say that's more of an attitude thing than a wrong partner, because with the right attitude, sort of anyone can get better, right? They can work with you, you can work together, and that's a good partnership, isn't it? And sometimes the lack of a coach, isn't it? Or a studio nearby. But all of those things can be solved by what we're doing, all right? Because lack of coach, I'm here. Lack of information, not really, not with all the videos that I make with you, yeah? Not the direct questioning. Lack of partner, can't do much about that, sorry. Or wrong partner, ooh, you put yourself in the hot water there, didn't you? So, but these are all sort of part of the learning process, right? And there's no perfect solution. It's really difficult no matter what you're doing, where you are, or who you are, or what age you are. There's always something you've got to overcome, which is why the mindset side of today is very important as well. Okay, so let's get into some, where are we here? Let me get a little, hold on, where's my click? Where's my button? the slow foxtrot. Okay, this dance. When you hear slow foxtrot, does pain immediately hit your brain? Like what do you feel when you hear foxtrot? Like, oh no, not that dance. This should be something you embrace. Okay, it's a fantastic dance. It's hard to do, but it's a great dance to do. Now, from Dave, I've got a question here. Vaughan, I'm struggling to smooth out the foxtrot. In April this year, you suggested instead of the rigorous, slow, quick timing, that we smooth out and extend steps 2 and 3 and accelerate and decelerate the body speed through the first long step. I agree that our foxtrot was choppy and we're trying to smooth it out. That's great. I noticed from your demonstrations of those other professionals that on the first that the first slow step appears to be cut short, so that instead of a full 2 beats of music devoted to the first step, it is as if 3 steps are spread out, so they're almost equal length in terms of time. Okay, yeah. So this is evening out the time duration is something I should strive for in Foxtrot. Okay. Yeah, you're getting right into the weeds now. Okay, so, and I've got a video of you doing your Foxtrot that we're going to watch anyway later. So this is going to parlay perfectly for everyone who dances. All right, this ballroom dancing particularly. So what you're asking is a very good question. And then the problem is when you look at, and by the way, I've been watching, because I'm thinking of some new content for the YouTube channel. So I've been watching all the finals of Blackpool dancing recently. And let me know if you like the actual analysis videos that I actually do. But I want to do some on Blackpool in the finals from the early 90s up to the early 2000s, which I think was like the pinnacle of ballroom dance. I think that was the best quality, and you can see such differences between the couples. I don't really like modern ballroom dancing at the top level as much now, because yeah, everyone looks the same. You know what I mean? So it's all powerful, everything's fast. It's like, okay, like where's the nuance, where's the detail? But when you watch that, it's sort of like watching Tiger Woods and being like, why can't I hit a ball like that? Right? You ain't Tiger Woods. Okay, so you can take a club and go swing and do 1,000 shots a day. You're not going to morph into him. You understand? So it's very hard when you're watching professionals and then you look back at your own dance and go, why am I doing that? Now, we can take lessons from it, but please understand the difficulty and the years of training that has gone in to anyone who dances at that level. Okay, and that's just important to just keep, I suppose, what your own expectations are in check. But then what you can do is apply the same principles. Okay, so the principles can be taught to anyone, right? So that's something I don't hold back. Coaches actually do hold back information for some stupid reason, because most people will never apply the work it takes, right? So it doesn't matter. You give away the information. Anyway, the point is that it is what you want to aim for, is this lengthening, but don't overthink it, because you can often get caught on the wrong thing. So what is happening? There's a few things I want to approach here. This is going to take a fairly good chunk of time, but it's important for a foundation in overall ballroom dancing. All right, there's sort of 3 parts of this. I want to talk about your feet first of all. Then I want to talk about moving as a couple correctly, and then I want to go into what you talked about in the third part of that, which is getting down into the weeds of timing. All right, so that's where I'll give you some practical tips on each of them. And then you're going to notice that you're going to need to work on these areas sort of separately and then together. All right. And keep in mind, marathon, not a sprint. So as long as you're starting to see over time improvement, this is the key, because you don't want to obviously go backwards in your feeling or movement. That's our goal, right? But you do want to start to feel that you're extending it out. Okay. And you're feeling a nicer, slowing movement. All right. So here's the question for you, Dave, and for everyone else. When it comes to ballroom dancing, the quality of your movement is controlled by what? It's controlled by, I'm going to have a little sip of my tea. Tell me. I can't hear you. That's because you're in the USA. Feet, right? The ability to control your weight through your feet and the lowering is going to have a dramatic effect on the quality of your dancing. Let me say it again. Your ability to control your weight through your feet is going to have a dramatic effect on the quality of your dancing. You might say, Vaughan, I've heard that before. Great. And this is the difference between people who have developed this as a mastery level skill and people who hear it and think they're doing it, but they're not, because you have to do it almost every day, right? You have to practice this quite intensely. There's a lot of books right over there. I've got my shelf, right? they're full of dance books, right? They're like three, two, one, two, and they just dance technique books, right? Different types of things. One of the things about feet that it always comes back to, was something I wanted to read as a little quote here. Oh, here, okay. I'm going to keep this pre-frame going. Please stay with me. So, footwork and feet, probably one of the most neglected parts of ballroom technique, but not for us, but it truly is for some reason. Feet are like the wheels on a car, right? We know this. They're responsible for timing, musicality, and expression, and they should and must work on every step. Now, Bobby Irvine, very famous in our world. If you don't know who he is, which most people don't know who these people are, you can always, Google him, check him out. Dances around with like a little teacup on his head in Foxtrot. Very, very cool balance. He's passed away now with Billy as well. Anyway, so in Blackpool, they said something. A good lady dancer will, of course, at all times be very aware that her legs and feet are controlling her own body weight. Feet, of course, give the vitality, movement, and timing, and the fundamental expression of dancing. So this is not only for the lady, but it's also for the man. So again, very important, right? This part. Now, stay with me. So there's a lot more depth in this, but we do talk about this in Ballroom Mastery Academy next level, where we go much more in depth on certain things. And I am looking at creating another course to add into your membership at some point. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this type of topic. We can go a little bit more in depth on how to do this. But fundamentally, I'll give you an example of an idea here. Now, look, working with the feet, you glide over the floor, stretching the insteps, which is the hallmarker of a dancer. All right. So, for example, if you're stepping to the side, you want your foot to glide another 20 centimeters before you would close, say in the waltz, for example. Okay. Now, just to do that on its own, just something like that would take like a few years of practice. Okay, just to get used to that swing. So it takes a lot of practice to use your feet correctly, and it may take 1 or 2 or 3 years of constant work on the feet. All right, so I'll say it again. It may take 1, 2, or 3 years of constant work on your feet. Using the feet like this must become automatic or a good habit because there's no time to think about your feet. It must just happen. Now, here's the important thing, and I've said this many times before. You know I'm flogging a dead horse here, but an important piece of advice. You practice your footwork and the feet like this on your own, not as a couple. Hence why the second portion of this is about moving as a couple and what to do when you're doing that. All right. So, because you get into all sorts of trouble if you're in your head, just try this. If you start thinking of heels, toes, rolling through your feet and that sort of thing, well, one, it's not automatic because you're trying to develop a skill. Now you're trying to develop a skill with someone else who's trying to develop a skill, and they're going to get in your way, right? Because their balance is off too. Okay. So it's so tricky. And that's why we want to do this sort of skill development solo. By the way, fantastic warm up. Like, is any of this sounding familiar? I'm not sure if I've made videos on this yet. I probably have, but in terms of practice, right? I'm sure I have because I tell everyone this, right? When you step into the studio, you must warm up individually first. Don't touch your partner, like high five them, whatever, but don't touch them and dance with them. Warm your feet up, warm your legs up through movement and correct footwork. And then that's where you start to, 5, 10 minutes that, you start to develop a good habit from that. And then when you come together, you now work on moving as a couple, which we'll get to in a second. Okay, so that's our little pre-frame, right? So, okay. Now, when I say 2 to 3 years, Dave, I think it's important for you to hear something. You have been with me for 2 to 3 years, and you're a good student. You're very diligent. I know you're doing, like, you're listening, and you're actually applying, and you're trying to think, that's great. So here's where, when people hear time, they get a bit confused. They think, well, I've danced for like 20 years. Surely I should have this in place. Not really. When I hear like 2 or 3 years of work, I would think, okay. Then under that, it's like, all right, were you dancing every day or once a week? Because if you think about how many days are in 2 years, all right, let's just use 1 year, 365. Technically, in my brain, I'm like, you should have danced or practiced that skill virtually every day, or at least 5 out of 7 days for that year, 5 out of 7 days every week for a year, right? And then times that by 2 years or 3 years. That's the amount of practice. Now, under that is how focused were you on that specific skill? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not just like, oh yeah, I've danced 2 or 3 years, I've done my footwork, I know my footwork and all that. It's actually the focus in on that specific skill set. You understand? And in that, it's so easy to get distracted. So you might do, okay, the practice on the feet, and you might have done it 5 days out of 7, for example, right? Let's use that as an arbitrary example. And then it's like, okay, but you got distracted with your timing all of a sudden. right? So, but like half of those practices, your mind was on shopping or like out, on the person in the studio that's annoying you today or something, right? Or work issues or whatever, right? And so you're not actually in it. So the amount of concentration we can have on a moment is actually quite small. So it's quite stunning how easy we can deceive ourselves on how much time and practice we're doing. Now the point is that you should stretch that out as almost a continuum in terms of what you do when you dance. All right. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. So consider yourself from today clocking a new time frame to try and develop this skill. So say from the end of this video until next year November, I'm gonna every time I go into the studio, I'm gonna give myself 10, 15, 20 minutes, or do it at home. Like it's best if you do this at home because then you can do it every day. And you're gonna work for 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes on literally creating better feet. Now I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about in a second. And this is where I feel you're going to create a huge amount of improvement. You may not see it in the first month, but I'm sure you'll start to notice a little bit of it. And what are you trying to do here? Come with me, people. Come with me. Boom. And main floor, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So, okay. With the feet, here's what I'm talking about. So it's not necessarily figures, but pick a feather in Foxtrot, because we're talking about Foxtrot today. Okay, so when you're looking at your feet, the way the ballroom walk works, right? You've got your ball skimming the floor, then the heel. Once that heel moves forward, the back heel comes up, your weight's in the middle, all right? You're keeping that balance between your feet. When this foot starts lowering, you're transferring that foot in. Do you see the control of that? Yeah, and how smooth? So that's what you're aiming to do, is things like that, like creating a draw. And this comes to a question later, but this comes to the floor pressure question I think Elizabeth had, or someone asked me about. But essentially, that's allowing you to control your movement and going backwards, of course. Ball of the foot first, then the toe, and you extend it back and you create that equilibrium. See, my front toes up, my back heels off the floor. See that control between the two, right? So say that again. So ball and then toe, skim the floor, and as your weight departs, boom, that would be the middle of the step, right? And then you would lower the back heel as that foot comes in. And you would not lower that back heel, if you can see it there. So if I do that again, so toe, right, skim the floor, there, boom, I'm trying to watch myself as I do this for some reason. Anyway, there, right, so that's the middle of my foot. Now this back heel, if I lower it there, I'm telling you something, this is very important, listen to this. If I've done that and my foot is still here, my movement is terrible. It is absolutely bad quality. So watch how easy this happens in ballroom dancing for everyone, by the way. Hence why it's over either not taught or people just ignore it. When you go backwards in movement for ballroom dancing, the minute that heel lowers, you've transferred weight. Look where my body is. Where's my partner? Now what's happened is she's going to hit you, isn't she? Or he will hit you. Either way, because this is for any person going backwards, right? Man or lady, this is how we move. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that that back heel lowers when that foot comes in. Do you see that? Look at the difference in the movement. So if I go back and stretch that toe, no problem. Right? So a toe, heel down. Now I've dropped my weight. You understand? So this is what I'm talking about in terms of development. You want to get that smooth action there, and then off I go. Notice the difference. So what do you practice? Well, the wave in Foxtrot is fantastic. The feather step is great for going forward, right? And then so feather step, reverse turn, feather finish, 3-step, fantastic, right? This is what I did. This is what all my top coaches, champions of Blackpool, that's what they do for a warm up. They would focus on rolling through their feet, because that's what I'll say before about controlling our balance, not controlling balance, sorry, the quality of our movement, right? And so again, going forward's the same idea. I want to make sure that not only do I lower and do all of that stuff, but when I use that heel, it's one, it's on the floor, I'm not lifting it. Two, the toe is up, just enough to get the heel on the floor. And then three, the transference of my weight is as the foot comes through. You see that? Now again, if I go forward, heel, and then put the toe down, before my body is on the leg, you will notice that that's like the flat tire. So let's just assume going backwards, putting the heel down too early, going forward, putting the toe down too early, there's your flat tire. You understand? So with that, that level of sort of thinking, ask yourself now, how often have you given consideration to that? How much depth have you given to that idea? And over time, and you can see very quickly how distracted we get with all the other concepts of dancing, right? Especially when you're dancing with a person and you're having partner problems, right? So please take that as your long-term goal. So that's what we're aiming to do with the feet. And the idea here is not just footwork, although that's obviously what you need to make sure. It is the control and the quality of the lowering, the control and the quality of the transference of your weight between the feet. And that literally is what creates the musicality. When you watch those professionals and you see that, that's what's being developed at the highest level. And you're like, man, why is the Foxtrot so smooth? They must be taking big steps. No, it's not a big step. That's swing developed. They're just like continuous. Look like you said, the first step's like this space, and then the second one, it seems like it just continues. So yes, they've got rolling through their feet. Their body and their foot timing is different. That's where it gets more difficult to understand as a concept, but that's practical for everyone. Let's go into part 2 of this, okay? Stay with me. The next part of this is moving as a couple. Now, this is where it gets a bit more interesting and fun and experimental, and hopefully this is where you want to both have a good attitude towards dancing, because, my friends, this is an art form, okay? This is an art form. Some days it can feel like an abstract piece of art, some Jackson Pollock just throwing shit everywhere. Some days it's going to feel like a fine master Matisse, mwah, or Salvador Dali. It just depends who you like. But either way, moving as a couple, that's the goal, isn't it? So we have to learn how to move as a couple. Now, what I wanted to talk about with this is that in this part here, let's see. We want to keep it simple and actionable. Okay. Okay. Have you ever done a step in ballroom dancing where you've decided to dance and then your partner just didn't go along with you at all? So for example, in a reverse turn, right, in the Foxtrot or something. So ladies doing a heel turn, and then all of a sudden it's like, where is she? She's like departed from your soul. She's gone. Or like a spin turn in the waltz. You've gone to spin as the man going backwards, and then she's just been heavy in front of you, or vice versa. The answer is absolutely. This happens to everyone. So here's what I want you to understand about moving as a couple, right? So both partners must move together at the same moment with the same speed in the same direction, no matter who is going forward, backward, or turning. So think about that again. Both of you need to move at the same speed in the same direction, no matter who's going forward, backward, or turning. So this means that both of you need to know, okay, and this is a problem I found often with ladies. I don't know what it is. It's just, I'm not sure people come with this idea of like having to follow means they just sort of sit there. But the idea, and two, I don't think people practice enough solo, like so they know how to swing and use their body. So, for example, when you're doing your Foxtrot, well, this is how you apply moving as a couple. When you're dancing together, all right. So, I know there's a lot in your brain. You're thinking feet, timing, posture, rhythm, hold, all that jazz. But if you're actually moving as a couple, what you aim to do is think, okay, I'm the man. And in the lady's head, they're like, I'm the woman. Genius. Okay. Now, I'm going forward, you're going backward. Real genius, yeah? I'm not, if this is a feather, she's not turning, I'm not turning. So what has to happen is you have to stay connected and you need to move at the same time. Now, remember the feet thing we did before? If you're developing that, what's going to happen when you move forward and she goes backward is you're both going to take a really nice stride and you're going to roll through your feet together at the same time. That's what you're aiming for. Then the tricky part, you need to realize after, say, your feather and all that happening, what's happening next? Is the lady going backwards or is she turning, right? So this is what I'm saying is we have to now go, what are we actually doing as a couple? And then you have to do it together at the same time. And you'll often find when it comes to turning, that's where it can break down very quickly, right? So the man might go forward and he hasn't done anything with his body and the lady's just gone backwards. So what has to happen? Well, CBM, right? So that's how we turn. Well, that has to happen before you step or at the same time as the foot passes, I should say. So at that moment, my body's already creating a left turn. Even though I'm stepping forward, my body and the lady's body, hopefully, we're both turning together in an arc, right? And then guess what happens? Well, we swap. Now I go backwards, she comes forwards. I have to think of that. I have to think I go backwards and she's coming with me forward. Then we're going sideways. So the good news is with dancing, there's only like forward, backwards, sideways, left and right, and turning left and right, and then you're spinning. So that's it. We stay on the floor with our feet. We don't have to roll around. We have to do weird jumps in the air. So in that context, if you can really start to think about that as a couple, moving together, where are we going and how much, it really does shift quite a lot. Now, I've noticed particularly uh, when women as followers, or it's really depending, like even if it's a gay couple, whoever is in the position of following, they have to become more active in not passive. So the idea being they have to really understand, okay, if I'm going to turn, the man leads it, but how much do I, do? Well, I'll feel that from him, then I'll go. So moving as a couple, the way you practice this is with very basic steps, like in the feather step in Foxtrot. Even just walking as a couple is good. So holding each other here, on your sides, and then just literally just walking in a straight line, brushing your feet together, going forward and backwards. And notice I'm like trying to train the heel to lower, right, correctly. I can do that without my partner. I can do it with her away from me. Then when I hold her close, what I'll do is I'll walk with her between her legs and thighs. So we're trying to create a smoother movement. And then you can create little turns from that. It seems simple, but that again, in a practical sense, if you've gone in and done the footwork thing by yourself, the second thing is good to do is to do that. Hold your partner and just walk forward and backward together, trying to have a nice rhythm, but staying together. Then turn a little bit. See if she can follow you, right? Okay, so a lot of content, I know. The third part of this was now talking about the rhythms and the counts of Foxtrot, okay? So how you're feeling? You staying with me? I know we can't concentrate very long, hence why I like to record these things so you can come back to it. All right. Now, the idea of what you mentioned before. So again, what you asked me as a question is sort of what you thought you needed, but sorry, is what you wanted. What you really need is to understand the feet. Okay. So remember, sometimes it's the whole. I like the analogy by Henry Ford. He's like, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, right? And so sometimes is what we think we want in our dancing, or our question is this, but to achieve that, there's actually like a whole different thing that we have to get right first, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we'll come back to this subject, by the way, don't worry. So this is a continuous conversation. All right, so when it comes to timing in Foxtrot, this will be the last part of this question. We have the rhythm counts, so slow, slow, quick, quick, for example, or slow, quick, quick, depending on that. And a slow is 2 beats of music, right? And a quick is 1 beat of music. Now, when you mention the word decelerate and accelerate, that's where most people get lost, and it can be, and I know you're a smart man, so what can happen is that it can also get very confusing, right? You're thinking, oh, should I speed up? Should I slow down? The best thing about strict tempo dancing is we can measure it, which makes it practical from a scientific point of view, because we can do things like mechanically with our feet and our body and our legs that we can measure, which is excellent. So I know point A is here, point B is there, and we know what to do in between. Then the dancing itself is the art, right? The actual expression of that, okay? Now, when it comes to the rhythm count and then creating continuous movement or weight transference, because what did you say here? The other professionals first low. It's hard to describe, isn't it, what you're watching? They appears to be cut short. Instead of the full 2 beats of music devoted to the first step, it's as if 3 steps are spread out. Okay, so listen, the first step, let's talk about the slow. And again, this is good to reiterate. So you've heard me say this a billion times, but keep hearing this. Your feet hit the beat. So in a slow, even if I took that first step as a quick, the same movement principle is going to apply. I'm going to want my right foot on a slow is 2 beats of music. So on the first step, that foot is going to hit beat 1 of the slow. Look at my weight. You understand? I'm in the middle. Weight is in the middle. That's beat 1. I've taken my step. At the end of beat 2, I should have collected in nice posture, my feet coming through, lowering at the same time. That's my slow. If I do a slow where I go beat 1, and I'm over the leg already, what's happening on beat 2? My foot's coming through. I've now stopped my movement, haven't I? So you can notice that my body is staying behind the moving foot. You see this? So it's from head to, say, my hip. I'm trying to get this action. Now, this is something you can watch. You watch this and you can try practicing this. If you have a look at those videos again and you pause it, what you notice between a step is this. So beat 1 will be there, and then beat 2 will be collecting. Now, in the term of a quick, just split it in half, right? It's still the same principle. The beginning of the quick, so if we just said 3, and then I'll count and to represent a split beat, I would go 3. That's where my foot goes. My weight is still in the middle, right? Then I would collect and 4 and. So you'll notice that the whole time, that now what does that do? Because my body is not going like over the toe, over the toe, over the toe, and I'm collecting at the right moment, the actual movement 1, 2, 3, and 4 and. See how that collects through? This is hard, man. This is very hard to do. This is again something you want to practice on your own. But if you're aware of the footwork, right, and you're aware of the weight collection, now what I'm doing is trying to time that precisely. And then as you get better, you extend that, right, through, again, better lowering, falling a little nicer. So I can do this with small steps, right? I can go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. But it's not very nice, is it? Right? I'm not swinging. So over time, a professional has developed that, yeah? So like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. You understand? So you could see the foot collection, the body timing. So that's where it gets very hard very quickly, and people can hear that, teachers can say that, and they're like, oh, you're an amazing teacher, look at you, my God, that's amazing information. Makes sense up here. But physically, you can't do it because you haven't trained the feet properly, you understand? You haven't trained the legs and the body to be in a certain position. So this formula, I think, will work very well, but you've got to think long term, right? Marathon, not a sprint, and then do it in order. So feet, as we said, with controlling it, that sort of thing, start to move as a couple, and then start to work on that transference of weight. Now, I'm going to give a little bonus tip here. So the idea being with, what's it called? The foot speed. So one of the things about the foot going out there on the first part of the beat is how quickly should it move? And the answer is your foot moves twice as fast as your body. So depending on the speed of the music, well, that's going to tell me how quick my foot should go. So if I was doing quick step, my foot, well, I'm not going to stretch it, I suppose, as much as the Foxtrot or waltz, but I still will move it. But I'm still going to arrive on beat 1 of the slow and quick step. I'm going to go 1, right? Now the trick is here, right, as I do this, is that foot twice as fast as my body. So my body's wanting to move. I'll show you what it looks like if my head and my foot moves at the same time. 1, 2, 3, right? So I can't do it. So your foot must go twice as fast as the body. Then the body can actually come through, 1 bump. You understand? So this is how we change up, we use the same principle across the dances, and then the speed of the music will help you understand like how much you're going to do. It gets way more technical than that in a sense, because then we start talking about the differences between the dances. But fundamentally, keep this in mind. These principles can carry across most of the movements, particularly like American Smooth, New Vogue, anything that's a swing dance fundamentally, okay? So we're looking at practicing the feet, moving as a couple, and then developing that timing. Okay, listen to this lesson again. You have to hear this a few times, I think. There was one more thing I did want to mention on the side here. So not all movements are created equal. Yeah, actually, I will mention this is very good for all of us dancers. So we looked at like you can move forward, backwards, sideways, left, right, turn, rotate. Now, in terms of actual figures, you know, feather step, which we use a lot to describe things, is linear. It's continuous, right? What about a double reverse spin? Is that a continuous movement? Is it progressive? No, it's rotational, right? So not all steps are always traveling, are they? Some are rotational, right? Some just pivot. And so so what happens in those instances is we're still trying to maintain what we call balance over the supporting foot. So if I went into a double reverse spin, all right, trying to use the same idea, on beat, what's it called? The foot, so it's slow, quick and quick is what we'll use for Foxtrot timing. So as I go forward on this left foot, in that reverse turn, I still need to hit this on the first beat, right? So that's beat Beat 1, so slow. Beat 2, my weight is collecting. So my foot's still doing that slow. On the quick, I'm still putting it out. Boom. At the beginning, notice my weight's in the middle. And on the end of the quick, I need to make sure I am around that right foot. And then here, holding that at the end. So I'm still trying to make sure that I'm using the same principles, even though I'm not progressing, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? That's where posture matters a lot, because if you do a telemark, and your routine has a bit of this, for example, you want to make sure that you get your weight and your foot over that, over the toe of the right foot, so you can control it, all right? Anyway, so where's my thing? There we go. There's a lot in that, eh? Okay, we'll pause it there, go and practice it, and see how you go. Elizabeth, what's up? Let's do some Samba. Okay. Hello, Vaughan. I know you don't sound like that. We're learning a few new steps in Samba at the moment, including promenade runs and the 3-step turn. Boom! Fantastic steps. Could you go through the pivot action that's required in both of these steps? Also, for the 3-step turn, what's the difference in the foot placements and the pivot action for the follower when you do the 3-step turn forward and go around to the left compared to doing this backwards and around to the right? I really appreciate you guys think this through and try to word it. So I need to correct a couple of things here, and this will make some distinctions for you. Okay. So first of all, there's no pivot action in the 3-step turn. Now let me frame it like this. And actually I'll do it with demonstration because it's much easier to understand. So for the purposes of this question, I'll dance this as the man for the moment and then the lady, and do it as the technique book. But understand promenade runs can start facing each other as well, and there's different entries, but they're the same step once you get going. So from the technique book, right, you go side and promenade, right? Then the man comes around and promenade, right? And then forward, and it goes down the line of dance, but I don't have the length here. So ladies, you're going like boom, 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 open, right? Boom, boom, open, and then boom, boom, open. Now that's our promenade run. Now a 3-step turn as a figure, and this is an important distinction, okay? It's an actual figure, and it's called the 3-step turn. It's taken from normally the end of the promenade run. So this is the lady's step, right? So she goes loose spiral cross, okay? Step, loose spiral cross, and then normally you do a Samba lock at the end. So that's actually the figure. Pay attention to that. Gentlemen, when the lady's doing that, you take her hand as she comes across, you do a stationary Samba walk, spin her, and then you can come out. That's the sort of standard variation. Now, so those are the figures that I'll talk about. The turning 3-step is what you made reference to when you said going forward, backwards, or sideways. Let me show you that real quick. So a turning 3-step is, it's not a figure in the technique book. It's how we learn to spin, or it's how we make a step more interesting, right? We can use it sort of anywhere, but let me show you. So for example, turning 3-step to the left, step, close, there. Then I can go to the right, step, close, there. I can do an open turning 3-step, my feet don't close. Bum, bum, bum. All it is 3 steps turning. So I know it can be confusing. If I do it forward, right? So turning 3-step going forward, I can go forward, close, there, right? If I go backwards, I can go, what way will I go? What way? That way. We'll go this way, right? So boom, boom, boom. All it is 3 steps turning. We have turning 2 steps too. We have turning 4 steps. So the point is that distinction does matter, because in terms of the choreography that I want to talk about, I want to pay attention a little bit more to the actual promenade run and understanding what it means for you as a lady and the man, and then what the 3-step turn is, okay? Not the turning 3 steps, which we can just chuck in sort of anywhere to make it more fancy pants, okay? Anyway, so I hope that distinction makes sense to start with. Now, let's get on to the actual part of this I wanted to start with outside of that little pre-frame. Where the hell am I? I am in my office room. So, okay. So here's what I want to focus on, Graham. I want you to focus on step 4 as the man. because that's not a pivot. What it's called is a forward turning step, right? So remember that, forward turning step. Step 7 for you, Elizabeth, I need you to focus on a forward turning step and a spiral cross. And this is a really beautiful way to articulate your feet and create a nice movement. So let me show you step 4 for you, Graham, which is where you're basically anytime the turning part is happening, which is what you're calling a pivot. And to me, the distinction matters because a pivot is very different. And if a forward turn happens when you go around your partner. So it's quite straightforward. So let's just say, for example, I'm going to start like this. So I'm facing my partner. This is how I'm going to do my first promenade run as the man. Forward, forward, promenade. Right, that's step 3. Step 4 is coming around. So I step side and slightly back, collect the lady. Okay, that's on the ball. There is your forward and your turning movement. The next step is down the line of dance, and then you step into counter promenade. Okay, that's it. There's no pivot. The pivot is literally like this action. Okay, so we're not doing that. All right, so that's it. That's what you're going to focus on. Footwork, just real quick, so you know this: ball, ball flat, ball flat. Okay, and the timing is super weird as well. Anyway, now as the lady, so step 1, she's going back. Ball of the foot, then ball flat, then she's in her promenade position. Okay, so that's step 3, Elizabeth. So now step 4, 4, 5, 6. Here is step 7, and this is the thing I want you to focus on. Not only are you doing that forward turning thing, but you got a nice little spiral across in the feet. So watch, you step side and slightly back there, and then by the way, that step is going to be, what is it, step 7? Yes, it'll be a ball. Yep. There's your turn. Then you spiral across the foot, then come out. All right, and then finish it. That is going to feel awesome when you do it because you'll be able to connect with Graham. By the way, do this very slowly. So because in terms of the arms, right? So the first one, we're connecting into promenade and the arm reaches out a little bit outward like that. And then when he comes around you, this is step 4 for you, Graham, you connect the back, okay? And then he opens you out beautifully for the world to see what's up, right? And then on the next part here, connect, right? And you can create a sway and a shape and all that. This is where styling, you do that with your coach, right? So you come from here, connect, right? And then you can create your spiral, boom, boom, okay? So let me try that in a different way. Okay, so I'll go from here first. And so let's do as a lady. Okay, and so 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, 6, okay? Now, the turning, 3-step turn, yeah, okay? 3-step turn, not turning 3-step. On this bit here, on the right foot, here's again the same idea. It's not a pivot action, nothing like that. It's a spiral cross again. That right foot is on the ball of the foot. It's a super, by the way, you got to give him your hand. So he could, I think it's the right hand. His left hand takes your right. And then he brings it up. So you can spiral, warm, step, boom, and the hand comes back down there. So then you can lock. It's fast as hell, by the way. I think it's like 3/4, half 3/4 in terms of speed. So it goes like boom, 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 and then out you come. Like no problem, yeah? The trick here is not to progress too much. On the first step, you got to come to his left side. So make sure you do a nice turn. This second step, don't go big. It's just like weight transfer and then come out. Anyway, so it's one spiral step, another spiral, okay? So that little spiral cross also controls your balance, right? So when you do a little spiral cross, what you're aiming to do is underturn the body a little bit. See, like that? Not finish like this. And that way, the next step completes the spiral. Then the next one, here. And then you can come out on the next step. And that's what controls the balance, along with Graham's fabulous arm, okay? So, what's the last little thing I want to mention on that? Because there's plenty in that for y'all. The beat value. So when you count runs, so this in Samba you have a few different types of movement. You've got a, stay with me, y'all. Just get a piece of paper. Got my kids, they draw all the time. It's great. I've got so much paper, it's crazy. They make so many paper airplanes. It's awesome. To the point where we had our own battalion here. Okay, so let me show you something real quick on Samba for everyone here. So, my God, 1 or 2 as a very basic thing. There's 8 rhythms in Samba. So let's just talk about the 3 main ones. Slow, quick, quick. which we'll divide into two things. And then we have 1, 2, 3 timing. So 1 or 2 is a bounce rhythm. There's my, look at that art right there. Bounce rhythm, baby. Boom, chicka, boom. All right, boom, chicka, boom. Slow, quick, quick. There's two ways to do this, but one is like a polka rhythm, which is a bit of a bounce, but it's like nerdy. or it's just completely flat and it's a lot of hip swing. That's sort of a way to think about it, right? So slow, quick, quick, or quick, quick, slow, whatever. You've got your hip swing or polka rhythm. So the hips, so again, it's more flat. So it's a flatter rhythm if you're swinging your hips. So for example, if you're doing, what's it called? Back rocks. Okay, a back rock, you're going, here's the polka rhythm, ready? Ba, ya, da, ja, da, da. Right, awesome, 1970s, coming strong. If you do a lock, right, you can keep it more flat. Yum, bum, ba, ya, da, 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 right? So notice it didn't go up and down. So with those two alone, you change up the game, right? So remember bounce rhythm, you got your whisk, boom, chicka boom, and boom, chicka boom, not exaggerated. What's the run? Where does that fall? Where does that fall, people? Okay, where does the run fall? Think of it like an arc. Okay, that's probably a bit too high, but think of it like an arc. What ends up happening, so for example, on the promenade runs, right? Notice there's no bounce and it's not flat, it's sort of in between. So on the first run, I'd be going ball, then it's ball flat. And as I lower into the next one, there. So I'm at the lowest point of the arc, then I'm starting to come up, boom, and I've sort of hit that peak, boom, 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 boom. So that's where you start to see the difference in the rhythms, right? Dum, 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 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a whole different feel, right? And you notice if you bounce out of that at the end, bang. That's where Samba is so cool, but it's hard because you've got these like contrasting rhythms. Now, the last thing I want to mention on this, and I blame you guys for asking such excellent questions. I know it's a lot of information, but this is great. And I always treat these things like I'll never do another one again, so I give as much as I can. All right. In terms of beat value, what is the beat value of like say 1 or 2? All right. So in terms of the say a whisk, for example. Okay. So beat 1, 2. So think of it this way: you've got 2 beats to a bar in Samba, 2/4 timing. So in those 2 beats, 1, 2, there's a little art in the middle. What's each one worth? 3/4, quarter 1, 3/4, quarter 1. So count that with me. We do a whisk. What do? Unless you use an alternate timing, but we just go 3/4 of a beat, quarter, whole beat. So where's the longest beat? It's at the end, isn't it? So it's 3/4, quarter 1, 3/4, quarter 1, right? Stationary Samba walk. This, by the way, remember, Graham, that's your thing. In normal context, it goes 3/4, quarter 1, 3/4, quarter 1, right? So where's the longest part of the beat, right? It's at the end. So it's not all the same. And that's where you start noticing. Suppose like in the Foxtrot, we looked at the rhythm of that. How does it get long? Watch Samba and think, how does it change so much? And you might think, oh, that person's an athletic dancer. No. You can be 70. If you understand how to do beat value, you're going to look awesome, right? Because you're not just doing this. So Samba basic. You're not just going 1, a 2, 3, a 4. You're going 3/4, quarter 1, right? 3/4, quarter 1. See the difference? 3/4, quarter 1, and 3/4, quarter 1. See what I'm saying? So it helps a lot. Now, the question then becomes, all right, what do you do on slow quick quicks? Good question. So slow is 1 beat and a quick is half. So it changes. So if I'm doing, for example, the back rocks again. So we've got slow quick quick for this timing. So with the right foot, the man, I would go 1 beat, half, half, 1, half, half, 1, half, half. It's not 3/4, quarter 1. Different, isn't it? So notice straight away, putting the two together, it's like, wow, that changes the feel. Now, on the, what do you call it? The, I'll just write this here, so just so we're all clear. Where are we? Slow, 1 beat, and then half, half. Okay? So just to bring us together, 1 or 2, 3/4, quarter 1, as an example, slow, quick, quick, 1, half, half. Okay? Or reverse that, if it's quick, quick, slow, it's half, 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 right? half, half, one. Anyway, so 1, 2, 3 timing. This is where it's, not only is it an unusual count, if you're counting it correctly, it's 3/4, half, 3/4. So again, we're still only using, what's it called? 2 beats, right? So 3/4 plus a half plus another 3/4. By the way, I suck with math. So when I started learning dance and it was all in like fractions and shit like this, like, God damn it, man. It's like, I'm pretty sure some nerdy people put this together and that happened. So I had to learn my math with an F, not a TH. Anyway, so 3/4, half, 3/4. Now, again, what is this telling you? This is telling you how long to stay on the beat for. And that's where you start to see a divergence in the rhythm. So for example, you do your promenade run. This is you, Elizabeth, right? It's 3/4, half, 3/4, right? Notice that, so basically think of it this way, to make that conceptually easy. The second step, because there's 3 steps on one run, and so there's 3 runs, 3 steps, 6 steps, 9 steps. So the second step on each is the half beat. So I'm going, 3/4, half, 3/4, 3/4, half, 3/4, 3/4, half, 3/4. Understand? Now the 3-step turn, 3/4, half, 3/4. You understand? So notice that in the middle of each step, it was faster, wasn't it? And that's because of the beat value. All right. So notice how like awesome that is to understand and then go, damn, Sam's got a bit of work. So if you really want to understand what we're talking about, you can do this for me. And I'm happy to help you on this because I care. I really want you to be good and feel good when you dance. Write out your figures, promenade to counter promenade runs, 3-step turn. Right next to it, the timing you're using. And blanket rule for most coaches, we just count like 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 5 or 6, 7 or 8 for choreography, for phrasing purposes. So whatever that timing will be, it might be fairly standard. And then what you try and do is go, well, no, what's the actual count, right? So I might do 4 whisks. So 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 5 or 6, 7 or 8. You understand? Then for example, you might have reverse rolls in your routine. Well, they're actually slow, quick timing. So the rolls, right? Just real quick. So slow, then quick, slow, quick. And again, in terms of beat value, just so we're doing that 1, half, 1, half. So what you do is you actually list out that slow, quick timing, and you apply it as a number. So slow, quick would be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, 6, and. So notice how you actually write the timing differently for slow, quick. And then the last part of this is where it gets tricky. Okay, so I can look at that, right? Is you put the beat value under it. And then it's like, fuck, it's gonna look like a crazy, mad mathematician thing. But what it helps you understand is how much time you're gonna take on those steps. So you'd be going 1, half, 1, half. And you start to train it slowly. You can't count that, but you start to see in your routine, holy Lord, there's a big separation in these rhythms in my choreography. Now, hopefully the choreography is phrased correctly. Samba could be a bit strange, right? When you do the promenade, counter promenade runs, they like, if you count them right? So if I go, if I just go 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5, and I'm on 6. I always end on 6. Well, the 3-step turn is why you want this, because this goes 7 and 8. And now I can come out on 1. So choreography should always be phrased correctly. And if you are a teacher, here's a side note. So if you finish on 6, you can just do a rhythm bounce, 7, 8, and then start the next thing, right? So Samba has these little things we can do, like a rhythm bounce, to just fill that gap, because you really do want to make sure you finish choreography and start things, finish on 8, start on 1. The point of all this is that it's not to confuse you, it's to help you understand in the beauty of like choreography. In Samba, you're not at all trying to dance everything because you hear it counted the same way, right? Like 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8. You have to understand under that, that's just easy to keep time. Under that is actually a rhythm you've developed, you see? Am I bouncing? Am I doing a polka rhythm? Am I more flat? You understand? Am I doing that little arc thing? And then that's where you watch Samba now. Go watch a video of like the world superstars of dance. Go and watch what's it called? Who's Samba I really like? Oh, Slavic's always good. Slavic Kirklevi is always good. Brian Watson, fantastic. So Brian Watson, Samba. Just type that in YouTube and have a look. And you'll notice that, don't you dare, there might be an alarm. Oh no, we might have to take a break in a second. No, don't do a fire test, you fuckers. Oh God. Anyways, quarter one. You got to know your beat value quickly. I might have to pause this for a second. If they do this, oh my God. Why? I've got a live stream. What are they doing? Anyway, feel free to write that out and send it to me. Give me a second. I'll just make sure this ain't gonna like blow up. They did it. Guys, they're just doing a little test. I don't have to pause it. Talk about shit timing. Dad jokes for the win right there. Okay. Anyways, listen. I hope that confused you. All right. So, and you were like, I am more confused than ever. No, you're smart. It takes time though, right? So I think that just giving you the golden source, if that's a thing. And what the hell's a golden source? Golden ticket maybe to good dancing, but it will take a bit of study on that. Now, real quick, I would like to, and we're almost there. Like you've done great. We've got a lot more to go. Please stay with me. And if you've got to go, come back to this a bit later and make sure you leave a comment or question below what you liked about the episode, what you'd like to know a bit more of, how I can help you in the future, because I've got lots of new information. I would like to create some new training for you. I really want to give you as much insane value as I can. By the way, help me grow the community. If you've got friends, maybe not competitors, no, but if you've got friends that want to dance better, like bring them in. That'd be great. Okay, so remember, like if I can't keep the numbers up, I can't keep doing this. Okay, so that's an important thing to understand. Okay, so here we are with I was going to do I'll do Dave. Let's go to Dave's video quick. Where's my volume? I love, dude, I don't know, very grateful that you are putting in this work. I don't give a shit what anyone else thinks. I like that you're starting to dance well together. She's like a very good partner for you, actually. Now, the problem here is that, and here comes the blunt Aussie in me, you're dancing a bit like a platypus, okay? Have you ever seen a platypus? They're a weird ass creature, okay? So what I mean by that is a bit too flat-footed. Now, you're definitely improved on your footwork. I'll give you that. There's no doubt about the heels and toes coming there. What I mentioned before, I hope you can start to see the lowering. If I could slow the video down, yeah, but like overall, there's definitely an improvement. Now, the thing is, you've got to try to lower your heels slower when you go backwards. See there, you just drop. You're dropping too quickly when you go backwards. Bang, that heel just drops. See? Same with her. So this has to be a thing you work on as a couple, obviously. All right, so because you're keeping time well, right? 1, 2, 3. See, so that's what I mean. If you think, just look at your feet, like sort of cover your body and just watch the feet. They're very flat when you move, and it's that flatness, if you will, is sort of exemplified example if I just do a feather. So I go boom, boom, boom. So I can swing my legs through and dance like quite, I can still move. If I understand the movement principles, which you're starting to get, I can dance on flat feet all day long, can't I? And my body can swing, and I can do my basic weave and like make it nice and small steps. But to get beyond that is not an athletic achievement. You don't need to be 20 and trying to stretch every day and do any of that stuff. It's understanding how to articulate your feet more. And so just go back to you were here for listening to the first part of the Foxtrot part. So it's that idea of extending the toe. So again, you can reach your steps back more, but how are you doing it? Well, first of all, ball, then toe, then lower a little slower to use the full beat. And that's where you'll start to see a big change. I think if you can really dial that in, we watch that video again in like say 6 months or something, and you've dialed that in, you will start to notice when you go backwards on, like what is it called? I know, like a wave, you'll start to see a much more gradual transition and control, okay? And it's gonna look super smooth. And so that's gonna be a good challenging goal for you. Now, obviously there's the aesthetic stuff of the arms. You can keep the arms up a little higher if you like, just to keep a nice balance. One of the things about the frame in ballroom dancing is the old saying, but your frame is like holding a tray of the finest champagne in beautiful crystal flutes, okay? You can't spill a drop. So whenever you turn and do things, you want to feel that the arms are always balanced, okay? They're keeping a beautiful carriage, boom, boom, okay? So that will help with balance for sure. Now, okay, that's it. Take the first part of the lesson we talked about and then work through some of those things, and let's see how you go. Where are we on this bit? Anticipation. Okay, so a couple more questions and then we'll finish up. But thank you for staying with me. And hello New Zealand, hello USA, and whoever's watching on the replay. Lynette, what is the best way to train yourself to maintain floor pressure? I have a bad habit of lifting my feet off the floor. I dance pro-am and my instructor is quite a bit taller than me, like Dwight. I think sometimes I don't stay as low as I should because of the height difference. Secondly, with a large height difference, is there an optimal placement for the left hand on the gentleman's arm so that you don't have awkward angles and shoulder tension? Oh, that's such a hard thing sometimes, to be fair. Like, I dance with short women and I'm 6'1", right? So I'm already tall. Latin dancing, I'm like a head above people mostly on the floor, but in ballroom, normal height in a way. And it is difficult with partnering. So what you aim to do is try to keep the elbow. One of the goals is try to keep the elbows balanced. Okay, so obviously you can't. If a lady's 4 foot, I'm gonna be down here, right? Because I need to hold her shoulder blade. But I don't drop this arm necessarily to accommodate that. Do you understand? Because she has to stretch up to me. Now you'll notice that in the extreme example of Dwight Howard dancing with Danielle on Dance with the Stars, he was what? He's 6'10", I think, and she's like 5'3", something ridiculous. So they actually did a Foxtrot, and I was like, wow, they made that work, but there's no way he could have held her in the correct ballroom frame and danced that well. Because they had to do like holding what I call monkey grip, like she's holding, and I use it for teaching all the time. It's a safe and easy way to teach and learn how to move people. You hold their elbows, basically, or their forearms, and that's what they did. And then, but watch, if you look at her body, she's like so stretched up to him. And that's what my coach used to say to me, Vaughan, I would never compromise my dancing for a man. She would always stretch up to me because I would sort of crouch down to her, you see. And so there is, unfortunately with the genetics and height thing, that's just, it is what it is. You make the best of what you can and you try to make it as close to what it should be. The main thing is that the hand can actually be held. Now, coming back to the actual main problem here about floor pressure. So Ballroom Mastery Academy and Next Level deals extensively with things like that. Latin and ballroom, using exercises and what to do. When it comes to floor pressure, just a very quick tip, because the footwork part of this was mentioned earlier. Well, if you lower properly, your foot will have pressure going into the floor, all right, using the heel, say when you drive forward. So you maintain that pressure by lowering correctly. So if you don't, you can see it. So for example, Dave's Foxtrot then, his feet were on the floor pretty much the whole time. So that's a big win because there was a lot of stepping, I think, happening in his early dancing, meaning that the foot was lifting off. See that heel? So to maintain contact with the floor, before you step, you actually have to lower through your knee joint, right? And so that's what then allows the foot to stay on the floor. So it's also then not rising so high that your foot comes off again. You understand? So we wear special shoes for this reason. We dance on a wood floor for that reason too, so we can keep contact. Now, to maintain the pressure, this is what you don't see. And it's one of the higher level concepts in ballroom dancing, right up there with like the use of your head weight, which is the most difficult thing and the last sort of thing you want to use in ballroom. Once you're at a certain level, that's what you develop a lot. And then in Latin, it'd be like arm styling and expression, right? So you need certain tools, and that one of the tools is pressure in your feet. So maintaining pressure is what allows your balance to be maintained as well, doesn't it? So there's, if I was to imagine a heat map, you ever seen a heat map on a computer, for example? So I'll give you a random example. This is a random example just came to me, but there's something called a click heat map for a mouse. So on your website, you can install software that I can see. I haven't used this for ages, but I can literally see where people's mouse goes on the screen. And it'll be blue for where the mouse never goes and red hot and then orange for where it mainly goes. And that tells you where your most valuable real estate is on a website, so where you should put things, right? I should really use that again. Anyway, the point of that heat map is that you imagine that it's not all red, is it? Like when your eyes look at something, you're not looking, you focus on a part, don't you? So your feet do the same thing. They go through this sort of like very light yellow to real red to almost black pressure, right? So if you were to heat map your dancing from above, you would have totally different colors across the floor because of the amount of pressure, but you wouldn't have dots. You understand? You would have lines and curves and squiggles of how your feet move. Because of that, you would notice where the heels being used to drive would be almost red. It'd have the most pressure, wouldn't it? And then out of that, coming onto a toe, you would probably go more to like a yellow into a light yellow, but you would still have pressure. You understand? And so you would use that pressure to maintain balance no matter what step you're doing. Certain steps like hovers require way more pressure when you close your feet so you can maintain balance. Without that, you actually lose it because you're basically on one leg. You understand? So, okay. So how do you do that? Enroll in Ballroom Mastery Academy. No, just try that. Try being more conscious of, in the warm-up section, your foot pressure. Okay, Madeline. Hi, Vaughan. Have you got any tips for developing strength, balance, and range of motion for old beginners? I started ballroom dancing a couple of years ago as a 51-year-old beginner, and I'm keen to develop a more focused program to develop my skills. Is it best to dance every day? And your thoughts on cross-training like yoga and walking? Thanks. Yeah, look, if you've got another activity you love doing like yoga and that, do it. What I always say to people though, I went on a rant on this once because it's like, because I had older students like 70 though. 50 for me is not old, it's like in the middle, right? And they were like, oh, I'm doing like 3 hours a week of yoga and Pilates and stuff for my dancing. I'm like, oh, how much dancing are you doing? Oh, like 2 days a week. I'm like, no, like take that 3 hours of yoga or whatever and put it into your dancing. So yes, the short answer is absolutely. The more you dance, the better. Now here's the kicker, okay? Your brain is going to want to conserve energy and it's not going to want to expel energy. So it's much easier to do other stuff, isn't it? I guarantee you this. If you were to dance, think of it like this. If you were to dance non-stop for 1 hour to music, non-stop, you keep dancing. You can change it. It can be waltz, quick step, foxtrot, but you don't stop dancing, all right? You'll die, right? Like an hour's a long time. So let's say you work up to that. But hypothetically, you do a full hour to music, and all you did was foxtrot for the hour because that was the best you could maintain. Your body is going to get so fit so quick, and you haven't done any cross training. Like okay, here, take a moment, right? Take a moment to admire this body of mine. Okay, it's been a good body, thank God. I like going to the gym. I don't do it as a cross training thing for my dancing. I've noticed that Christmas time comes, like get ready, belt size is coming back, okay? I teach dance and I compete in Pro-Am, but I'm not training every day. But the dancing I do really, and yes, my metabolism's changed too. So the way my body has morphed since I was 20 to 40 is very different, right? So now I notice that dancing itself just brings me together. And diet is a big part of this too, for sure. You know, I eat very well and I drink a little too much. But aside from that, so I wouldn't say so. According to Alan Watts, I'm just fine. But the idea is that my feet, sorry, not my feet, my actual body, through all this mechanics and lowering, you're using your body the way it should be done, right? One of the things that I think we've lost in society is movement. Like movement is the key. Your body is designed to walk like 20 kilometers a day. It is designed to move, okay? Not to sit and be stationary. So in the beginning of what I'm saying, it's going to be difficult because fundamentally the brain's lazy and it wants to conserve calories and energy. But very quickly, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, you start to get addicted to it. It's like, this is awesome. This movement is what my body needs. And then if you start doing the way I expressed before about the focus on how you do it, you start to pull your body in a certain position when you do this movement, which creates resistance. And that resistance is what trains your body. It makes you fitter, you burn fat, you restore muscle. Now, here's what I will say for everyone. This is very important. I do believe not necessarily cross training with yoga and stuff, weight resistance training, 1000%. Probably should have opened with that, but anyway, weight training 1000%, especially as you get older. Like Dave, for you too, like I hope you're in the gym lifting some weights. Now, don't do it so you hurt your body. You need resistance that's heavy, but that's what creates stronger tendons, of course, and bone density. Okay, so please, if anything, hit the gym a couple days a week and increase your dancing at least by double what you're doing. Okay, and then come back and let me know in a month how good you feel. Linda, hi. I will be doing my first dance comp in 8 years. Boom, that's awesome. That was a fist pump, not a punch. With my new dance coach that I've had for the past 2.5 years, I have a goal-orientated personality. Oh, you're one of them. All right, all right. I want to develop a side of me that just enjoys dance. You're in the right place. I don't want to be in my head when social dancing or even in comps. I've done one. So, okay, so you've done comp. Without thinking about not thinking. How can I develop that? That's a bit hard, isn't it? Not thinking without thinking. Then what are you thinking about? All right. Now listen, congratulations. I think it's great you're getting on the floor. Look, what I'm going to say here, and there's a few ways to approach this. There's a lot to unpack here. With stuff like this, I need to ask so many more questions to get a better snapshot before I just assume. But I have to make some assumptions on this, okay? Now, if you're a performer, pay attention. You do any type of performance. What you're masking here is fear. So often what happens with goal-oriented personalities, people who are like high achievers and perfectionists, they all are attracted to dance. Okay, I have a video on my YouTube channel called like the 5 lies of perfectionism in dancing, so to speak. So watch it. It's got some ideas in there for you. But here's the point. A lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of fear that gets masked of not being good enough, right? So we have this fear of not being good enough and sort of beliefs around that. And so, for example, you haven't been in front of people for 8 years, okay? Now, I look at that, you're going to be very much in your head, no matter what you do when you get on that floor. That's going to happen, right? So, for example, Dwight with Dance with the Stars, I was doing some coaching sessions with him on the phone because he has a lot of anxiety around performance. And you might think, oh no, he was telling me like when he's free throwing a practice, he gets like 90% of them in. When he was on the court and it mattered the most, he had a horror, like to him it wasn't anywhere near as good. And so translating from the practice arena onto the actual basketball court, or in our case, from the studio to the stage, oh, that's actually quite a skill, isn't it? That transition is difficult. What makes that transition possible, if at all? Experience. What experience is happening is a development of skill of how to, like, not only let go, but your body is trained enough to perform under pressure. So with actual anxiety, like the natural stressors of what's it called? So the autonomic nervous system, the fight, flight, freeze response is always kicked in when we get into moments of performance. Okay, and so it's how we use that and train that. The only way we can do it is literally putting yourself in stress test situations, right? Under the pump, under the microscope, in front of people, on the floor, on the metal test. That's it. In social situations, you don't really have that unless you've got actual anxiety issues, right? So that's a whole different problem to deal with. But so you understand what I'm saying? So it's the skill of that transition. The only way you conquer not being in your head, do more competitions, do more of the thing that you fear. You start to change the beliefs around your dancing when you do that. You start to change your beliefs around you as a performer. You have the ability then each time to try and practice. So here's what you can do practically with this. You go, well, I'm only going to do I'm never going to become a seasoned competitor doing 30 comps a year and, for the next 10 years. So what you can do is pick like a low hanging goal, not a big one, okay? A low hanging goal that you want to achieve for this next competition. So for example, not perfect rhythm and musicality. See, that would be terrible. It's too high a bar. Not entertaining the whole crowd, right? That's a lot, isn't it? So you'll be right up in your head trying to do that one. So for example, the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? So for example, you could say my goal would be I will just dance all my steps in my routine. So like what Dave did right in the video, he did all his steps in his routine, didn't he? Now, did he dance with perfect musicality and timing? Well, timing, yeah, but with perfect musicality, no. Like that's such a high freaking, like nobody does that, right? Even the world champions are like, I danced terribly today, and you're like, wow, that was incredible. So see, you keep it specific, or just even simpler. Like I'll just dance with joy. I'll actually enjoy the music. That's it, right? Keep it like that. And so it keeps it positive for you and not so high that you are out of the realm of possibility and you freak yourself out and then you get right up in your head. Yeah. So there are triggers for this. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is that this overthinking, for example, can be a manifestation of depression or anxiety, right? So it's analysis paralysis, and that's one of the things that performers try to do. But again, high level performers have the ability to try to play with those concepts regularly, so they can get feedback pretty quickly on what worked and what didn't, as a way to get out of their head. So for you, I think it's going to be great if you have a smaller outcome in your mind that is achievable for you. Also something you go, yeah, if I do that, that'd be great. That'll really help boost my own confidence and I'd want to do it again versus like having a negative experience like that was terrible. All right. Okay. Let me know how that goes for you. What was it? Yes, what I write here. Dealing with performance anxiety and being able to let go live in front of an audience takes many hours of being in front of an audience for that skill. Oh yes, that's the thing. So it's that skill acquisition is developed in like real time. Okay. So yeah. Last question and we'll finish up. Hey, thank you. Are you still here with me? I love it. Thank you very much. You guys are great. Okay. Now I know you don't listen to every word. I understand. I don't like the sound of my own voice. Believe it or not, I love sharing information with you, so I talk a lot. Okay, it's just part of my condition. All right. So, but feel free to watch things again. Very important to repeat information. Okay. So Diane, this is what we'll finish off with. What would I like to improve? My response to failure. This is a good one. So the background. It's been a tough year for me personally. I lost my dad in August, and I've been struggling since. Oh, I am so sorry, Diane. That's really rough. I haven't been through that yet, but that's coming one day for me too. My parents are old, so okay. There's a lot in that one. I hope you're got doing the grieving process and you're around a supportive network and things. I don't really think there's anything you can say to someone for that. It's a personal journey, isn't it, when it comes to grief? There's a lot to unpack on that one. So you know, um, one thing I do often recommend as best you can, this is something I say for myself when I'm going through, I have anxiety, I get stressed out, I sometimes get depressed. So I dance a lot, right? Like, or I move. I have to keep moving, otherwise it's just worse. So please keep moving. So I rock up to the big one this weekend for a season finale to find out I've been disqualified on a technicality and can't compete. What? That's crazy. Not my fault. I still don't understand it. Someone's been sitting on it for months and waited until less than 40 hours for the comp to make a complaint. Ah, yeah. The old psychological battle. Ended up dancing in random categories and age groups. Did you crush it though? Come on now. Did you get out there? Go, fuck yeah. Where my teacher had a space for routines I hadn't touched in months. Unsurprisingly, it was a bit of a shit show. Damn, damn. I felt rubbish before we even went and have a feeling the universe is saying to stop dancing. Yeah, okay, so I have a parable here I want to read. One of the things that's important here is, yeah, I forgot sometimes how crazy competitive people can be in the US, right? People do shit like that. It's so retarded. But here's the thing: it seems to me they're trying to edge you out, and they're winning, right? So when it comes back to the response to failure, something that I've done with all of my clients, like in my, like I've got a secondary business that I haven't worked on in a while because I'm really focusing on ballroom mastery, but it's a coaching aspect. Now I've had members of parliament here. I've had like high level executives and very prolific people in their industry. I've coached and worked with them. And guess what? We're all human. This is a common problem. What I found is good is not necessarily tactics like things to do. It's having like a philosophy for yourself around failure that you develop. So for example, in all these events that are happening, are they happening to you or at you or for you, right? And it's up to you how you want to see that. And so now this doesn't mean that you're going to feel good, by the way, when this happens. It's sort of like an overarching way of you navigating these things, because the emotions you feel when this happens, and this is something I'm exploring at the moment, quite in depth actually. The emotions that come up when something happens in a, in what you could perceive as a negative like experience, where do they come from, right? Do they come from you thinking them? Or do they just sort of come out of the unconscious, if you will? Now, what's important to understand about that is you don't really get to control your emotions. I don't think anyway. So this is something I've thought you could do for like years. Okay, I don't think you get to control them. And so what do? Well, you integrate them. You don't try to wrestle away with them. So there's this idea of like if you question your emotion, like, why am I feeling this? Like, you'll often get a response like, cause you're a bitch, right? Cause you suck. You know what I'm saying? You get so much, you get so many weird responses, okay? Now, so what do? Well, rather than trying to push it down, just sit with it. I know it sounds simple, but that's part of integrating how you feel. Now, why is this important? Because when stuff like this happens to you, there's a lot you can't control. Even if everything went well at that comp, you could still be like, that was a terrible comp, I want to quit. The universe is trying to tell me this. Maybe the universe isn't trying to tell you anything, right? It's your emotions, and you've got to reconcile and deal with those properly and figure out how to make them work for you. But again, all emotions are medicine. You can't just go, well, why do I feel shame, right? Why do I feel guilt? Oh, well, they serve a function, believe it or not. They really do, even though they're not pleasant. And so it's trying to get rid of those, which can be the source of many problems like addiction um, or, uh, or, or more anxiety, right? Because you're like, I shouldn't feel this way because, in positivity land, I never feel bad, which is a terrible thing because that's not true. And all emotions serve a purpose. And so it's how we sort of find the meaning from that, which is why you need a little philosophy of failure that guides you. So, for example, are these things happening at you, to you, or for you, or with you, right? Okay, what about how do you perceive failure to begin with? Is it actually failing? Are you a failure as a consequence? Are you worse as a human because you danced badly in a category you had no idea in, right? Now, again, it's not about brainwashing yourself, but it's about having yourself understand, like, you can have a laugh at this. You'd be like, well, my philosophy for failure is that I can show up, dance in a category I'm not prepared for, and look like a buffoon, and nobody is going to think twice of me again, right? Right? Like, nobody's thinking about you that day, right? The main thing is you could also say to yourself, um, the person who tried to sandbag you and take you out didn't, and you got to dance still. That's awesome, isn't it? So that's up to you. Write down some key points for you that something you can integrate, and then don't be hard on yourself, right? This is something I tell myself: don't be hard on yourself. Like, turn up, try again. Now, in terms of strategy, absolutely. Sometimes we get lots of messages. I believe that there are like sort of callings, if you will. There's intuition. There's things that just you keep trying things and your persistence just doesn't work. And there's just like the door is closing too much that you're missing the open door over here. And so sometimes all you need is a small pivot off what you're doing, and then bang, new energy. Yeah, you don't need to like quit dance, move state, and find a new studio and take a 2-year break. That's massively drastic, isn't it? Sometimes it's as simple as just going, okay, um, I'd like to try with a couple of new steps in my routine. I need something to just re-energize me, right? And that's important. That's something I have to do too. I love what I do, but if I do the same thing all the time, oh my God, I go nuts. So do you see what I'm saying? So that's a strategic thing, but strategy doesn't override those emotions you feel when those events happen, okay? So learning to deal with that's very important, and recognizing that it's actually okay for, you to feel bad or for things like that to actually happen. Uh, and then your response to that is more what I believe is in your control and more important. Now, last little thing before we finish. You guys are awesome. Um, Here's that little parable of the old man who lost his horse. Now, forgive me, my Chinese is a bit rubbish. So the idea here, good luck and bad luck create each other. It's difficult to foresee their change. A righteous man lived near the border. For no reason, his horse ran off into a barbarian territory. Everyone felt sorry for him, but his father spoke to him. Who knows if that won't bring you bad luck? Several months later, his horse came back with a good, noble group of barbarian horses. Everyone congratulated him, but his father spoke to him. Who knows if that won't bring you bad luck? Now, his house is rich in horses, and the son mounted with joy because he loved to ride. Then he fell and broke his leg. Everyone felt sorry for him, but his father spoke to him. What do you think he said? Who knows if that won't bring you bad luck? 1 year later, the barbarians invaded across the border. Adult men strung up their bows and went into battle. 9 out of 10 border residents were killed, except for the son because of his broken leg. The father and son were protected and both survived. Hence, bad luck brings good luck, and good luck brings bad luck. And this happens without end, and nobody can estimate it. Do with that what you will. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.